الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونتوب إليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وبعد. As you all have heard, the topic which is before us this afternoon is regarding the aims of the Shariah. And this topic is of quite importance these days, for as many of you, or all of you, are aware that the debate that is currently going on in the Islamic world, whether we should judge ourselves and organize our societies and communities according to the Sharia, or should we replace that with secular law modeled in the Western liberal tradition? This is a debate that can be found in many Islamic countries throughout the world. And it's a debate that has also been carried to the West in the sense that the proponents of Western liberal secularism often attack the Sharia and will often argue that the Sharia is of little value in the modern world. That's their initial premise. Now, this argument concerning secularism of the Sharia is a lengthy argument, and it entails a number of aspects that we really won't have enough time to get into all of these aspects at this small lecture. However, what I hope to do is I hope to bring out some of the aims of the Sharia, so at least we will be somewhat better informed as to what does the Sharia aim to achieve. You know, every law has its purpose, and every law has its aim. Traditionally in the West, in societies like England, France, Germany, they were once ruled by the concept of the divine right of kings. This was the old concept around which they formed their society. And you still have the vestiges or the remnants of monarchy in the United Kingdom today, right? I mean, you still have a king or a queen or something, right? Even though perhaps the concept of the divine right of the king is not present, but this is a tradition which still remains in certain areas of Europe where the monarchy is still there. So obviously when kings are given their divine rights, then kings become very tyrannical, because if everything a king says is the word of God, and every action that he does is interpreted to be the will of God, right, then he's above censure, okay? Added to this, the issue of the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church, which in conjunction with the idea of the divine rights of kings, had also an influence on the society in Europe in the Middle Ages. And as many of you perhaps have read in medieval history or European history, the Catholic Church was one of extreme intolerance to the people of Europe, and the Pope is considered to be infallible in his statements and decisions. So whatever the Pope was to say, whatever he was to do, was to be considered to be the statement of God or the will of God, and therefore was also above question. So the European people, suffering from both issues, the idea of the divine right of a king and the tyranny of the Catholic Church, eventually revolted against this. And when they revolted against this, they came up with an idea, which is probably the basis of modern secular society now, and it was formulated by an author in the French time, or the French Revolution, one of these French thinkers, by the name of Rousseau, who perhaps some of you might have studied some of his writings in literature or history or sociology. Anyway, this gentleman, Rousseau, came up with the idea of the social contract, where government is a contract between the individuals and the people who represent them. And this provided a philosophical basis for what we understand now to be the democratic secular ideal. However, though, due to the tyranny of the church and due to the tyranny of monarchy, the Europeans went to another extreme. Take this as a rule of thumb. Whenever one extremism appears, another counter-extremism appears. And for instance, later on this week I have a lecture concerning feminism. When women were considered not to be human beings in Greek thought and early church thought, an extreme resulted from that, and now we have the feminist movement, which tries to say there is no difference between male and female, and so therefore they use the term gender as opposed to the term sex. So the point is that extremism results in another extremism. Now, the Europeans, in order to rid themselves of the tyrannies of the church and the tyrannies of monarchy, with having the divine right of kings involved in it, invented this secular system where the majority can judge or can decide the laws by which they want to live. In theory, although we know that in reality it's really a minority which really runs the show in these democratic countries. But the theory, the popular concept, which is held by people in their minds and believe in, is that in Western democracies, like in the United States of America where I'm from, or in Western Europe, the people are allowed to have that type of government which they want. Government for the people, by the people, as the slogan is in the United States. However, though, they had to pay the price for this type of lifestyle, because human beings, when not guided by the divine guidance which has been sent to them through the prophets, end up living lives of misery. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran has said, referring or explaining or discussing the Quran, has said that whoever lives outside of the Quran, the reminder, he will live a life of straightness. I mean, it'll be a tight life. And also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has informed us that whoever holds on to his guidance, meaning the Quran or the divine revelation, he will never go astray, nor will he have sorrow, meaning in this world and in the hereafter. So when the secular model was employed, they also felt a lot of sorrow, the Westerners, and they were unable to rid themselves from all these problems. And I think the societal problems that are present, for instance, in the United Kingdom, in terms of the breakdown of family, the loss of morals, the inherent racism, and the inherent economic injustices, and so forth and so on, political corruption, environmental destruction, all of these ideas and problems which are current in society, I'm sure, since most of you, if not all of you, are college students, are aware of to some degree. So the point is that we have an alternative. This alternative is not only fitting for us, but it's fitting for all humanity, and that is the Shariah, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent down to humanity. Now, the Muslims were ruling themselves by the Shariah until very late. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent his book to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and commanded him in that book to judge humanity by that book. And the explanation of that book is found in the statements and actions and tacit approvals of the Prophet ﷺ, which are referred to collectively as his sunnah or his way. And Muslim society was ordered by the Sharia for centuries. And it was only until late in the last century, perhaps in the last 150 years, where the Sharia was replaced by secular law. And it was replaced by secular law at the point of the sword and at the end of the musket, in the sense that when European countries achieved military superiority over the Muslims and were able to defeat them in the battlefield, they then conquered their lands. And when they conquered their lands, they implanted their systems of belief, their systems of education, their systems of morality, and also their legal systems in the Muslim lands. And so therefore, perhaps one of the first Muslim lands to disassociate itself with the Shariah was India, which was one of the first Muslim areas to fall under the sway of Western dominance, when the British had control over India. And thereafter that was followed by Algeria around the year 1830 in the French, replacing it with the French code. And then thereafter Egypt in the end of the 19th century when the English replaced it with their code. And then thereafter, with the fall of the last major Islamic state, the Uthmani Khalifa, all the lands which were underneath that state, the Ottoman state, fell under either British or French colonial rule at the beginning of this century, and all their legal systems were replaced by secular law.